welcome development.
No matter the timing?
No matter the timing. No. Okay. It's never too late to start something good. Okay. But incidentally, just last week, the federal government was also giving loans of 30,000 naira to women in Osun State. That clearly sends a wrong signal.
Is it under the Trade and Money Scheme?
Yes. Look at the timing. The timing is suspicious.
You did say any good
No. I'm
okay.
trying to balance. I'm
okay.
trying to give us a sense of balance.
All right.
Now, INEC, ICPC, the police, all of them are coming together to fight inducement of voters. That is good, but that is futuristic. It is a mere promise. And we need not doubt their sincerity of purpose. It's good what they want to do. But at the same time, you cannot approbate and reprobate. The executive is headed by a political party. It is the APC. And just last week, the same party gave out loans of 30,000 naira in a particular state when election is next week. Now, supposing that the intention, is not only good, but they really mean to enforce it. You understand? The arrest of people who go out to induce people. It's very, very welcome. But as a Nigerian, I also have my fears. You understand? It is quite possible that these organizations, may dwell more on the opposition party. So this serves as a warning to all these organizations, who claim now, that they want to fight inducement of voters. Because what happened in the Ekiti state, from first-hand report that I got from a police officer, was that they actually worked with the ruling party in the Ekiti state. You understand? To give out money to people. You understand? So, the problem of inducement of voters, you understand? Most of the political parties are to blame. But you said all of them, but I'll say no. Most other political parties, they don't even have the means. They don't have the, the wherewithal.
But at least in their own little way, you spend according to what you can afford.
You see, but I'm very, very careful about generalizing. You understand?
I said it was according to election observers.
Okay, according to the observers. Oh, okay. But also, there are several observers. But in particular, most observers mention the PDP and the APC. You understand? Those are the two major players, you understand, in this criminality. And why? It's because they have the money. They have the resources, you understand, to be able to induce the people. So if the government intends to stop this, I'm on the side of the government, you understand? But sincerity is the key thing. Are they sincere, you understand, in trying to deal with this menace?
All right, Barrister Sarah, let's have your take on this issue of voter inducement.
Yes, thank you, my learned friend. I think I agree with my learned friend that the laws are there. The problem that I see is the willingness and the readiness of the political class, the ruling party, to enforce the laws. And if you look at the body language coming from Aso Rock, and recall what transpired in Ondo State, in Edo State, and just recently in the Ekiti State, and the utterances from the leading lights of the ruling members of the ruling party, it does not appear to me that they are genuinely and sincerely interested in giving us a credible election, transparent election. Now, let's take Osun State as a case study. If you look at the various actions of the federal government so far, clearly they themselves will appear to already they've put things in motion to begin to induce the voters in Osun State. This is a state, we understand, that for several years they were paying half salary. And then all of a sudden, the federal government pumped in money. Understand, about 16 billion was sent to. Meanwhile, they have told other states that before they can access that same fund, they have to meet certain conditions. Before they came out with the conditionalities, they've already sent about 60 billion to Osun State. Workers are being paid, pensioners are being paid, and then the vice president, pastor, Professor Osinbajo, went ostensibly on an empowerment, money, 10,000 naira, to market women, to the hopolo, the talakawas, the uneducated, the illiterates. I understand he was there yesterday again. He went there about 2 weeks ago, and there was a public outcry. They didn't listen, and yesterday he went back there. To do what? To induce the voters. If you read the provisions of the Electoral Act, particularly with regard to electoral offenses, section 124, 125, it's very clear. Inducement can take place before, during, and after. If Nigerians actually committed, if the ruling party, which is the APC, and the president is truly and really committed to bequeathing upon us a free, fair, transparent, and credible election, this issue of vote buying will become a child's play. Will become, sorry, not child's play, will become a thing of the past. And those involved, engaged in it, will be dealt with in accordance with the provisions of the law. It happened in Edo. That's where Osho Baba introduced the concept. They did nothing about it. It was replicated in Ondo State. They did nothing about it. Now it happened in the Ekiti. They did nothing about it. And from all indication, they have not shown to us any sincerity that they want to do something. All right,
let me just take you up on where you said they did nothing about it.
Yes.
The Electoral Act has provisions, like you said,
yes,
to deal with corruption and all forms of malpractices,
yes,
during, before, during, and after the elections.
Yes.
Whose responsibility is it to ensure that when any section of the Electoral Act is flayed in terms of malpractices and other corrupt vices, whose responsibility is it to ensure that this law is implemented? Who? Is it the executive?
It's the executive. It's the police.
Okay.
Police is an arm of the executive under the control
but
of the
independently,
president.
they can take this up.
You see, now, he beggars belief that in a state, for instance, they had over 30,000 security personnel
deployed for the
election. And INEC had assured us the same way from the clip you just played. That's what they told us. Oh, all steps will be taken to ensure there's no voter inducement and all that. All talk, dash. They're not in the least interested. The 30,000 strong police could not prevent or arrest those who were inducing voters. So it shows a clear intention from my reading of the inability or the unwillingness to enforce the law. The duty, section 4 of the Police Act, has given the police the power to detect, investigate, and arrest and prevent commission of crime.
Can an individual institute a case, a formal case against this issue of malpractices during election, aside, when politicians go to court over, trying to reclaim their mandate? I have not really seen a case where anyone comes up and say, okay, this is what transpired during the election. I witnessed the issue of vote buying, inducement, and what have you. What do you make of this?
Now, because we are in the realm of criminality, the power of an individual, the local standard of an individual, to go to court in respect of that matter is not as straightforward and as open as when you are dealing with a civil matter.
All right.
Of course, an individual can go to court to obtain order of mandamus against the police, compelling the police to arrest certain individuals or to carry out their statutory duty to investigate those responsible for vote buying and rigging or corrupting the electoral process. You can go to court, get an order of mandamus, but you and I know from the experience we have had in the last couple of years we don't have a regime who have shown willingness to obey orders of court. They choose the orders of court to obey. So that the way to go about this is for government to show sincerity, but by arresting those persons involved in vote buying. And another thing really is for government, as the first step, in my view, is to amend certain provisions of the Electoral Act. For instance, if you look at the provision of Section 48, the system of voting recognized under the law is open secret ballot. Now, what that means is that voting is secret. In a way, when you want to print, you do it in secret.
Yes.
But the ballot box is in the open, and you put in the ballot paper onto the ballot box in the open. That is where the inducers have the opportunity.
Okay.
The time between when you leave the cubicle and you move in to put your the ballot paper in the ballot box, that is where they have opportunity to induce. So if the framers of the law, the legislature and the executive, they can look at the provision of Section 48 and Section 52 with regard to the ballot box being placed in the open, in the full view.
That would be a step in curbing
yes, I know that.
Right,
because that means, for instance, I read somewhere that INEC was trying to redesignate the location of the ballot box. I said, whatever they do, they cannot introduce a regime that is against the clear provisions of the Electoral Act, which provides that the ballot box must be placed in the open to the full view of all concerned.
All right, thank you, Barrister. Yeah. Oh, sorry, Barrister Kolawole, what's your take?
Well, let me quickly say that first and foremost, even without the Electoral Act, when you look at the criminal code, the penal code, and what have you, all the extant laws in this country, including the ICPC, FCC Act, and all that, it frowns very, very seriously against bribery and corruption. And the kind of vote buying that we have seen in some of these states and all that is outright corruption of the electoral process. So that we don't, the police or any security organization, INEC, needing to wait for either the Electoral Act or whatever before they can start moving in against those who are perpetrating this corruption. The second area I want to delve in is you see, we are a nation with a very huge memory. We have a high capacity memory. We take in a lot and then hardly forget anything. If you will recollect, this vote buying and inducement didn't start today. If you look at 2007, 2015 and all that, where I reside, like some of the places I did my own electoral monitoring and what have you and all that, I saw certain political parties would distribute, they will load the recharge card inside certain vans and all that. I will go to certain communities and start throwing these recharge cards at people. And people in the process of trying to grab those recharge cards, some people get injured and get involved in the very, very serious accident. I've also known of instances in which musicians have been commissioned in this country, and then those musicians will make some compact disc and all that, and 500 naira, 1,000 naira will be put inside those compact discs and all that, praising certain political parties. And these political parties will go out distributing those compact discs with, with naira inside embedded in them. There are also instances in which T-shirt and also face caps will be made and money recharge card will be embedded in those things and openly distributed. And the security people have always seen these things all this while. But the reason why they could not act, Ibrahim Mantu has given us the reasons why the security people could not move against any of these people when he said he became a born-again politician. He said anytime there's going to be an election, they usually target 3 or 4 people. They will target the INEC people, bribe them, put them in good accommodation, provide fitting for them, and then generous allowances, so as to make them either turn a blind eye, a deaf ear, a non-smelling nose to whatever evils they want to commit around the electoral boxes and all that.
He also said they take care of the security people, the police, the civil defense, the Boy Scout, the boys, and all that. They allocate money specifically for all those people. And all that. And then you also find out that to some extent and all that, some of these other so-called election observers, it is not all of them that are neutral. In fact, it has become a career for some people in this country to be an election observer, in which they get some reward for representing certain political interests in certain particular locations or the other and all that. So now a law is only enforceable where it does not become the norm among the generality of the people. The actors, everybody participating in most of these elections, especially the major political actors, sorry to say the PDP and the APC, are neck deep in all these practices. And if, for example, the APC, which is supposed to enforce the law because they are in the executive arm of government, and it is the executive that enforces the law, and if they are part and parcel of this criminality and all that, how would the law be enforced? And Balisayo was talking about the body language, which is very, very significant. If the policeman knows the body language of the DPO, he knows the body language of the commissioner of police, he knows the body language of the IG in charge of his zones and all that, which is in favor of the political party in power, or certain political decision. Is the ordinary officer that is deployed to man the ballot box going to act contrary to the body language of the DPO, the zonal IG and what have you? It's impossible. And then you ask yourself, why is it, for example, that the president is tightly holding on to nominating certain people from certain sections of the country aside of security people? Because security is very, very crucial when it comes to either compromising or the integrity of the election. So this is how all this thing starts. I don't see us having any clean and clear election when the government in power itself is not committed to a free and fair election. In fact, we are likely to have the worst form of election to be conducted in the history of this country if care is not taken come 2019.
All right, we've talked about, with the background you just gave now, let's talk about the people. It's now, what you've just said, it's becoming a norm where the people are even expectant. They're waiting for you to induce them. So let's talk about the people. You talked about Osun, where they've not been paid for a while, and all of a sudden they're going to be paid their salaries, and also women, market women getting loans. Is it that the people easily forget their plight, or just want that instant gratification because they might not likely get it at the end of the day? So let's talk about the people. The people are actually to be held responsible, because if you're not willing to collect, they'll keep their money.
To put the blame solely on the people, you understand, on the surface, you know, it's an easy conclusion to reach. Okay. But look at it. Look at the electoral process. You understand? For you to contest any election in this country, you understand, you must have a war chest. Look at presidential APC, the APC nomination form was 55 million, which they now reduced to 45 million. You understand? To be a governor, you need to have like 22 million. You understand? For you to go into the House of Assembly in the state, you also need to have some millions of naira. You understand? So when you say the people, you understand? It has a sociological, connotation. Because look at democracy itself. Say democracy is the government of the people, by the people, you understand, and for the people. But truly, can the people, the masses of the people of this country, really vie for political offices? It is no. You understand? So the word people has a class connotation. You understand? Since the average Nigerian cannot contest for election, you understand? That means you have categorically two classes of people, you understand, within the definition of people. You understand? Because the Nigerian democracy is a monetized democracy. If you don't have money, you cannot vie for political office. And if you have money, you can vie for political office. You understand? So the other side of the people, you understand, the masses, you need to get their votes. And now, the masses are already disenchanted. You know why? Because they have not been getting the dividends of democracy. You understand? They are human beings, and they are rational people. They know that they only see these politicians most often once in 4 years. You understand? They see them once in 4 years. And when they see them, politicians come and ask for their vote. You understand? So since they know that you're not going to get dividend of democracy, they just settle me immediately. You understand? Ekiti election, look at what they say now. They say that vote and cook soup. Dibo, Kosebe. You understand? Meaning that immediately you have shown that you are voting for a political party. You are going to get 3,000 naira to cook soup. You understand? To eat. You understand? So the people have been pauperized. They are poor. They are hungry. You understand? It's not as if they don't know the right thing, though. They know the right thing. But according to Karl Marx, it is not the consciousness of men that determine their existence, but their existence that determines their consciousness. You understand? Meet the average man on the street. He will tell you that social politician is a thief. I know he's a thief. You understand? Because he has been there for 8 years. His child is also there. They are collecting bogus money. You understand? That the average man knows you cannot remove them. You understand? You know what they are doing is wrong. You understand? You know it, that they are wrong. You understand? But you want to eat. You are hungry. You understand? So to blame the people, you know, it's easy. You understand? But a deeper analysis shows that the people are not really to blame. So we come back to the issue of the constitution of Nigeria. You understand? The constitution must be amended in such a way, you understand, that the political system will not be monetized. You understand? If the system gives room for the average person to contest, you know, without millions of naira, then the people will be able to choose, you understand, their true representatives. Right now, they have no choice. People have no choice right now. We know what is happening in this state presently. You understand? People want somebody, another person say, no, this person cannot come again. You understand? So, but we the people, what are we? We are mostly spectators.
All right, Barrister Sarr, I still don't want to agree that, well, the act of resignation whereby the people feel they can't do anything about their situation, they have to live for that time where they get just peanuts. But what can the people do? Don't the people have the power to actually demand good governance, or just or is it a situation, or is it a case of people being lazy?
Well, I think it's a function of history, a function of the experience they have had with successive government over the years. Just like as my learned friends puts it, they have become disillusioned. But the civil society and then the elite, all those who believe in democracy and the rule of law, they have a lot of work to do by way of sensitizing the people to realize that their vote matters. The actual power, the sovereign power, resides in them. Their right and freedom to choose is so crucial. It's something that they should not be ready to bargain with. The only form of bargain that they will require of the rulers is good governance. But then again, you realize they sit down, they say to themselves, the talakawas, the hopaloi, the unemployed, the illiterate, the mass of hungry people in the society, the uneducated, the unenlightened, they sit down, they take a look, and they say to you, whether we vote or we do not vote, the winner is already known.
And that is one thing I hear almost every day.
Yes. The result has been written.
And it's quite unfortunate.
Yes. Now, I dare say that the height of it, we thought, was the era of Morosiwu and Obasanjo. When Yar'Adua came to power, he assured the nation that there was going to be a difference. And really, we're beginning to see some positive trajectory towards credible, a much more credible electoral process. Leading up to 2011, and then 2015, when Jonathan showed the lead throughout the campaign, he was saying to us that, look, his election is not worth the life of one individual. But since 2015, there has been a reversal. What we are getting, the language from Aso Rock, I'm sorry to say, is they must win at all costs. And it's understandable. Because you find out that this is a man in 2000 and some of the elections in the past, he never campaigned in some zones, and he thought he expected that he was going to win, and he believed that he won and that he was rigged out, and then there were riots, and most Nigerians were killed. Youth corpers and others were killed because he believed that he won an election that he didn't campaign about 3 geopolitical zones. That gentleman is at the helm of our affairs. Now, let's recall Kogi State election. And there were a few elections before the Kogi State election. There was a comment from the president, and I said to my friends, we are done for. The first few elections that were conducted after 2015, the Bayelsa election, the ruling party lost. There were some other elections, the ruling party lost. And he made a comment criticizing the outcome of those election results and putting pressure, more or less, it was putting pressure on INEC. That was the message. And I'll tell you a story. On the flight from Abuja, took a taxi, airport taxi, going back home. The taxi driver was saying to me, how do we expect to have a credible election when one of a close relative of one of the rulers is the director of operations? And that, as far as he's concerned, the result is already known. That the woman who, according to you, was saying that woman grew up with the head of the ruling party. But I don't know whether that is true. So when already the citizens are disillusioned and they have no confidence in the electoral process, they don't believe that their vote counts. So that is why they are susceptible to taking these peanuts, which I consider as highly insultive. Highly insultive.
All right.
In this day and age. And it's sad that whereas since 1999 we thought we were moving towards a much more credible electoral process, what we are getting in the past couple of years is like we are regressing. It's like we are back to 1998. We are back to the starting block.
All right, Barrister Tunde Kolawole, come the 22nd of September, the people of Osun State will be filing to the poll to determine who will lead them in the next 4 years. So what, in view of this issue of inducement, what do you think the people can do to ensure that this issue of money politics does not determine the outcome of who becomes the winner of that election, knowing fully well what they went through this few years in the state?
Judith, I will go in directly to answer your question and also pose a very rhetorical question. Why was it that Chief Gani Fawehinmi contested an election in this country against Obasanjo and some of these other people? Femi Falana also contested the election. There are also other progressive people like Tunji Braithwaite and all that. They contested the election. Most times they always lose very forcefully those elections. Why is it that the people they have served, Gani Fawehinmi never served any other person other than the ordinary people on the street? But here, when Gani Fawehinmi approached them to be elected as president, for them he had no electoral value. They didn't vote for him. Since that time, I've asked myself a lot of questions. What is the issue that the people are sometimes incapable of making the right decision, especially when it comes to electoral matters and all that? And I have been tinkering with two concepts. The first is, could it be that these progressive elements, these radical elements and all that, have really not mastered the art and science of really mobilizing people, of campaigning people, of wooing people to get them to vote for them? I mean, in the US, for example, you had an Obama who also came from nearly nowhere, but with a deft political strategy and a lot of people rally around him and all that. Then knowing what to do, he was able to win that. But here in Nigeria, we will find that most of the progressive elements, people have idea who meant well for the ordinary man on the street. The ordinary people have always rejected them. Could it be the shortcomings of these other opposition parties who ordinarily should be the one getting the vote, but they don't know how to really get to the people to really convince them to really cast their vote for them? That is one. The second one is that Barrister, you mentioned something very, very important. He referred to a philosophy of Karl Marx, and it is not
the consciousness
exactly, but rather it is
the existence that can be a consciousness.
You see, that has to do with conscientization. Too many times, the ordinary man on the street, if he's not conscientized, and what do we mean by conscientized? Giving the right political education, or even giving the right education for that matter. He is like a mob. Without anybody for that matter, without the right education, it's like a mob. Yes. He could be directed one way or the other to even take a decision against himself, which at the end of the day might injure his interest. And when the people have been as pauperized as they have been pauperized in Nigeria today, you find out that little temptations like 10,000, 5,000 naira becomes a very, very huge inducement. Yes. That very, very few of them will be able to resist. Sometimes we'll preach like it is said in the Bible, it is better to teach a man to fish for himself rather than give him. But you see, when a man is in the middle, he's so hungry, or is in the desert without any water to drink, and now somebody comes with some drops of water, another, the possibility that he will take that water and forget whatever philosophy or whatever the Bible or the Holy Quran says for that time.
Even Jesus fed them.
Exactly. So these are the issue. So for us, we need to really give the ordinary man on the street political education, political conscientization, so as to be able to take the right decision to know that, look, for every 10,000 or 5,000 or recharge card that or a face card that you get another, the consequences can be as grievous as suffering for 4-8 years another, and you should receive the temptation of really going that way. For the Osun people, honestly speaking, I am also partly Osun. And all that. I go there all the time. I have friends in there. My wife used to work in there and all that. If you look at the level of suffering in that place and all that, the way the people have been turned to beggars. Those of us who are close to them, the kind of requests we get on a daily basis for as much as 2,000, 3,000 and all that assistance and all that, you'll be marveled. And you ask yourself, why is it that out of all the states in the world, why is the situation in that place so bad? The question is in the air. Now, the Osun people could also do something very strange if they get the right political education. Because sometimes we have seen it in this country in which people will even take your money some other times, and then they will go to the ballot boxes and
vote according to their conscience, yes.
And if you look at the political uprisings or a kind of how do you call it, centrifugal forces that is blowing, especially the party at the center in Osun State today, you will find that they might not find it too easy. The secretary to the government has gone one way, formed his own, and then adopted another political platform within which to contest. Some legislators in the House have resigned, and then they are now working against the party from under whose platform they came into power and all that. We have also seen demonstrations and then strikes a few weeks and a few days to all these elections and all that. So this tells you that the people in Osun may, this time around, because of the level of popularization that we'll be talking about, take your money and not vote for you. Because I am not too sure the kind of experience they have had in the last 8 years and all that any of them will want even for their worst enemies. But sometimes too, people are gullible. Sometimes too, elections are not even determined, like we said, by people being allowed to thumbprint the ballot paper and then results being this thing. All sorts of variables manifest and determines who win elections and that thing. Even the mere position that the security people take could be the decisive factor in any election. The disposition of INEC is also another thing. And also some of the returning officers and what have you. In a place like Lagos State, when the local government elections have been conducted, I have practically in my own polling booth seen a situation in which once they suspect that you are not going to vote for them, they either come out with a cutlass or with lashes or whips and all that and chase you away from the ballot box. So if similar thing is allowed to repeat itself in Osun State and all that, it could, the people of Osun State may not be blamed if they are prevented from really having access to the ballot paper and then casting their vote the way they want to cast it, but rather certain people predetermined and saying this is the kind of people who will have access to the ballot box and these are the kind of people who don't need near the ballot. So this is what is good about looking at the body language of the people that one has seen in Osun State and the rebellious activities of even certain people within the ruling party in that state and other. The possibilities are that the Osun State people are not likely to look at any inducement before they cast their paper, their ballot for whatever political parties they want to cast it for.
All right, so we hope the election goes smoothly come next week, Saturday, and we'll be back on the show on Sunday to actually look out for all these variables which will determine the outcome of the election. Let's quickly move on. And now we'll discuss the resignation of the Minister of Finance, ex-while Minister of Finance, Kemi Adeosun. She finally bowed to pressure by tendering her resignation letter to President Muhammadu Buhari on Friday. Her resignation followed a prolonged silence over an allegation in a Premium Times report that she forged her National Youth Service Corps exemption certificate. In a resignation letter, the former minister noted she was shocked by the outcome of the investigation done on the allegation, suggesting that the NYSC certificate, which she had earlier tendered as Commissioner for Finance in Ogun State, was not genuine. She said that in 2011, she tendered it before the Ogun State House of Assembly for screening as a commissioner and for clearance by the Department of State Services and was cleared. She said she got screened again by the National Assembly when she tendered it for ministerial screening in 2015. Adeosun said that not until the scandal broke out, she never knew the certificate was not genuine. The minister said she was born and brought up in the United Kingdom and that until she was 34, she had only been visiting Nigeria with her UK passport on holidays. Barrister Osho, I read that letter and a whole lot of issues came up there. But first, I applaud that journalist who dug into this particular story, and we've seen the outcome. But she's saying this particular certificate, which has been discovered to be fake, was tendered before the Ogun State House of Assembly for screening, and she was also screened by the DSS and also the National Assembly, which when she tendered it for ministerial screening in 2015. So how come all this were overlooked by these arms of government and also government agency, and none of them discovered this certificate was fake? So what's the essence of screening then in the first instance?
Well, it's
is it just just go ahead, screen, and nobody does an in-depth investigation?
You see, truly, we've been talking about the body language of the executive here today, you understand. Our security agencies, most of them are well trained. Most of the personnel, they are well trained, you understand, and they actually do their job very well, you understand. You see, as a Nigerian who has related with the police, you understand, I know definitely that they were aware, DSS was aware that that certificate of exemption from the NYSC, you understand, that it was forged, you understand. But they have looked at the body language of the president, that this is the president's choice, you understand. More so, she had already worked in Ogun State as a commissioner for finance. So that's why I believe that they deliberately overlooked those things. The personnel who investigated must have seen it, and they must have shown it to their boss. You understand? The boss would have told us, look, oh boy, forget that. This is the president's choice. You understand? Because if we come out to say that the DSS could not detect that certificate was a forgery, you understand? We are actually indicting the DSS. You understand? And elsewhere, some people will lose their jobs. They will have resigned right now. Immediately, Mrs. Kemi Adeosun resigned. Some other people too will have resigned. You understand?
Or get sacked.
Or get sacked. But in civilized climes, people resign. You understand? Because you have to look at the person that appointed you. You understand? You would expect that person and you resign. You understand? Because people have been asking, Mr. Adeosun, you understand, that madam, since this thing is not proper, That where you came from England, people resign. But now, why haven't you resigned? But like you have said, I will also praise her in a way. You understand? Because this is Nigeria. Because the president, from his body language, was not ready to sack her. You understand? Even a most distinguished lawyer, is not advocate of Nigeria, our teacher. You understand?
Professor of law.
Professor of law, even supported that. You know what he said? He said, what is NYC after all? You understand? But if you look at it, and I've discovered that from the debate going on, you understand, that we have been missing some salient points. You understand?
All right.
If you look at the National Youth Service Corps Act, you understand, every Nigerian, you understand, who is below 30 years of age must serve.
Yes.
Must serve the nation. Now, if you come back to Nigeria, if you have graduated at the age of anything below 30, and you come back to Nigeria at the age of 50, you are not exempted. At the age of, you are still supposed to serve. You understand? The law actually lists out types of people, calibers of people that are exempted from service.
So it's not necessarily the age that
It's the
you.
age
Okay.
at which you have your first degree.
Okay.
That matters.
So if you had your first degree, say at 22, and did not come back to the country until you're 34, you
must
still
serve.
Okay.
That's what the law says.
Whoa.
That's the law. And I don't want to bother ourselves with it. It's Section 2. So Section 2 of the National Youth Service Corps Act. You understand? So that's what the law says. So, but if you look at the debate, you know, people that have been supporting Mrs. Adeosun, you understand? You know, the issue is not even the certificate of exemption. The issue is that she's not qualified for exemption. You understand? That is the real issue. But
she should have served.
She should have served. That is that.
I'm not going for an exemption letter.
The exemption letter is a worthless paper. You understand? Regarding Mrs. Kemi Adeosun.
Wow.
It's just a worthless paper. You understand? But you see, I'm a realist, and the law recognizes there are different schools of law. You understand? There's the realist school of law. You understand? As a realist, I really find it difficult to accept with people that say that woman should be prosecuted. If you have to prosecute Mrs. Adeosun, then Governor Amosu of Osun State, of Ogun State, that employed her initially.
In 2011.
Yes, that employed her, cleared her. You understand? Then the National Assembly that screened her.
And
you
the
understand?
Department of State Services that cleared her as well.
Yes, that means you know there's a chain. There's a chain that ought to be punished. To single out that woman and prosecute her. You understand? Something bad has happened. You understand? We should learn our lessons from that bad thing and not allow it to happen. That's just my view.
All right. With all that has been said,
yes,
why do you think the president kept her all this while when the scandal broke out? What if she never resigned?
You see, that this is, so I'm sorry, I will have to, for regular viewers of this program, you may begin to see me as someone who is a
critic of the government.
You see, I'm a lawyer by training, and the way I'm trained to follow the law and obey the law. It may interest you to know that it was Buhari himself who introduced this element, this distinction. Initially, from the beginning, there was no age restriction. But by an amendment which Buhari himself introduced on the 1st of August 1985, when he was head of state, they limited it to those age 30. Like if you are a graduate of a university or any other institution, either in Nigeria or abroad, and you are below the age of 30 at the time of your graduation, it is obligatory and mandatory for you to make yourself available and present yourself for service
to your fatherland.
Yes. If you fail to do that, you have committed an offense for which you are liable on conviction to term of imprisonment or fine or both. So the president cannot tell me that he doesn't know, because he was the one who made the law in 1985. But this is very typical of the regime. They want to protect their own. They claim to be fighting corruption. Meanwhile, when members of their inner caucus, members of the regime, they are involved, they turn a blind eye. I agree with my learned friend that from the body language, the president was not ready to let her go, to fire her. I remember this is not the first time. We've had instances in Nigeria where high caliber Nigerian politicians and appointees have been involved in one fraud or the other relating to possession of false certificates. And government has taken decisive action. A case in point, Salisu Buhari, who was the Speaker of the House of Rep, 1999. It was found out that he had a forged certificate, presented a forged Toronto certificate. And the government of Obasanjo, they didn't spare, he was number 4 citizen of the country. As soon as he resigned, he was arrested, arraigned before a proper court, and sentenced. Now, you recall the case of Professor Fabian Osuji and Adolfo Swabara. They were involved in the case of bribery, because it's also, if you look at the whole gamut of the Kemi Adeosun's case, several offenses were committed, about 6 or 7 of them, one, including bribery, corruption, because she went and presented a forged certificate. She knew. In any case, ignorance of the law or lack of knowledge does not excuse you from culpability. When Obasanjo did not spare Professor Fabian Osuji, I recall in 2005, Obasanjo had to address the nation, sacked the minister, and handed him over directly to ICPC. The Senate President, Adolfo Swabara, his colleague didn't spare him. He resigned, and they were all arraigned.
Tafa Balogun too.
Tafa Balogun, remember Tafa Balogun? Ewerem. And the like, even Stella Odua. Stella Odua.
The Minister of Internal Affairs.
Yes.
Oh, the late man. Obasanjo's.
Yes.
That was involved in the ID card.
It didn't spare
National ID card
scam. They were not spared. But you see, that is the sad aspect of what this government is building and breeding in Nigeria, which is corrupting our morals, unwillingness to punish for corruption, particularly members of his own regime, and is doing great disservice to the fatherland, to our country, encouraging and aiding the breach of our laws. Perhaps the president advisors did not remind him. Perhaps he's not getting the right advice. That is why I tend to agree with some of the contents of General Obasanjo when he advised the president to have a broad cabinet, a broad range of advisors coming from all facets, all areas, all parts of the country, so that they can give him proper advice. The president is an old man. We may not have the time to read through, so we depend on people to read for him and then summarize and break things down for him. But when he surrounds himself with people from his own place,
with puppeteers,
those who are ready to say to him what he wants to hear, he's not helping his image. He came in highly recommended. A man of integrity, this a man who, our man Friday, who will fight corruption to a standstill, and then another point. You recall one of the reasons we were told that it took this regime about 6 months to appoint ministers was because they said they were looking for angels. Now,
very so sorry.
Is that where you can see where one of the research led them to?
All right.
Someone who presented a forged certificate. And then this brings me to another point. I ask myself, how are we sure there are not several other persons in the corridors of power, not only at the federal level, but also at the states?
All levels.
All levels. So So it requires all levels of government, all tiers of government, to do a thorough search, introspection, do a thorough investigation of all the papers, certificates, both whether NYSC, educational qualification certificate, presented. And I want to make this point. If I don't say it, I will not be happy with myself.
Quickly.
Which is that what I expect the government to do the same way Obasanjo treated Salisu Buhari. Kemi Adeosun immediately should have been arrested and tried. The same way they are harassing the Osun PDP aspirant, Adeleke, harassing the king and the principal of the school, the police. They were very quick, even without invitation, they were very quick to invite Adeleke to arrest the policeman, and they were even ready to desecrate the traditional institution of Ede. And now we have a clear case. It took almost 70 days. If she didn't leave on her own, she would still have remained there. Right. And to Capitol, I was very sad when I read this morning that she took a British Airways flight yesterday morning out of Nigeria. Ordinarily, I would have recommended that we should activate the extradition treaty between Nigeria and England. But they won't do it.
All right.
But our duty is to call attention of government to the existence of laws and the requirement and what needs to be done, that the right thing should be done, so that the society will be better for it.
All right, thank you, Barrister Mary. Barrister Korla, well, I've heard different submissions saying her resignation is quite belated, and what would have happened, what should have done immediately when this report came to the fore. So come clean and let Nigerians know her position, after which we're now getting the whole explanation, how she tendered the same certificate to the Ogun State House of Assembly, the DSS cleared her, the National Assembly cleared her, and how she came about the certificate through trusted associate who approached her, and she received the exemption certificate in question. Now, do you agree with Barrister Osho? Yes, Barrister Osho. He's saying we don't need to prosecute her because it will entail a whole lot going into it. So is her resignation enough to you?
I didn't say we shouldn't prosecute her.
Okay,
I'm saying the whole chain.
Okay.
You understand?
If at all we're going to prosecute her,
should be indicted.
Okay.
You understand?
But that's...
honestly speaking, Judy, before I answer your question, let me say Adeosun's case is a classical tragedy, which if the Nollywood people up to the task will make a blockbuster movie.
An amazing script.
Exactly. In the world. Here is a woman, very brilliant, very intelligent, hardworking, and who had everything going for her and all that. Who ordinarily shouldn't be cutting any corners to really be able to attain the pinnacle of success that she eventually got. But to find out that in this part of the world, most of these young people and all that, so-called high flyers that you see in most of these places and all that, actually people who cut corners one way or the other to be able to get to where they are going. It's either they have cheated on their certificate in primary, secondary, university, or on the NYSC, or they even got the job not on merit, but through whom they know, and then the kind of services and all that they have rendered to some of these people. But be that as it may, the bottom line is that Adeosun knew that the certificate was forged. Yes. Every excuses that she's been given is a mere alibi.
Yes.
They are not attainable at all. It's just very scurrilous excuses and all that. You see, the tragedy is this. Do you know, even without attending the NYC, going to the former NYC, there are so many other ways by these people do it. There are some ways in which they get people by proxy. They will register and then get somebody by proxy who will be signing and then do some of these things on their behalf and all that. And then the stipend that the NYC pays, that person will be taking that.
At the end of the day, the destination is just that certificate.
Exactly. Yes. Some could also even get some stupid medical papers and all that, and forward that to the NYC and say for this people.
A musician who went for
Imdele went for the
few days in town, went on tour.
Why Adeosun went that way is very, very strange to me. She probably has been misled or she deliberately knew and not. But you see, the bottom line is this. She is a victim of high voltage politics that is being played in government. She is a victim of high voltage politics. Just like the law said, it's not as if some people didn't know that these certificates were false. But because she was at one time or the other in the right circle.
So you agreed they knew all along?
Exactly. Oh, sure, they knew.
It was a landmine.
What if they never knew?
They knew.
This is Nigeria. We are Nigerians. We know ourselves.
They knew.
And we are told.
Remember, the paper that first came out with the report and all that said the premium time that they discovered at the National Assembly that the papers were forged. But rather than disqualify her, they were using that paper as an instrument of blackmail. Each time the National Assembly needed money from the executive arm of government, all that Senate leadership is just Adeosun, we want this billion within so minutes and another. And before you knew, look at the Paris Club tragedy and all that. It was paid into the account of governance, whereas this is money that should go to the states, the respective states and other. What has government, including governors who have left office 2, 3, 5 years, participated in the sharing of that?
Yes, and they are serving with this application.
It is because they were using that kind of paper to really blackmail this woman. Look at also some other personnel, the so-called advisor to the president on recovery of public property and all that. They have also dug into his own background and that the certificate he used to enter the university and all that is and WAEC has come out to confirm and say, look, we didn't issue this certificate and all that. And not only that, you find out that in this country, if you haven't stepped on the wrong toes, they will always close their eyes to whatever malfeasances or problems that you have. The bottom line we should say in this country is that all these people cut corners, like Adeosun have cut corners. They must learn very, very serious lessons from this. But it is not enough to just let her go that way. I agree with Barrister that it is not enough that she has resigned. For whatever it is worth, Adeosun must be brought back to this country. Diligently prosecuted and convicted. You cannot give her the soft landing like it was given to Buhari, in which the president immediately pardoned and all that. Also look at what happened to a senior advocate who has been convicted recently. He was just given 1 month.
Like a slap on the wrist.
Like a slap on the wrist and all that. A little parallel, he's been asked to go home and sin no more. The lesson that we'll be sending to the young people through that is going to help the society in a great deal. We will be telling people, look, it is not ideal, it is not the best, it is not proper for anybody to begin to cut corner just to achieve success or to achieve greatness or to get certain political power. Furthermore, we will be sending the right signal to the rest of the world that, look, law is not just for the common man on the street. Whether you are an elephant, a tiger, or a butterfly, or an ant, or another. Once you are caught in the web of the law, you are going to be diligently prosecuted and punished like any other person. But if you allow her go the way she's going now and all that, then no lessons is going to be learned from what has happened in this. But I tell you, a lot of people, look at, you mentioned the case now. This is the reason why in this society, something I have been preaching that we need a kind of peer review mechanism is even more important than the law. That when we find out that a person in a particular class or a group of people has committed, the people in that group, in that circle, should be able to find and sort persons and put pressure on them to you see, because the law should be the last resort. If Adeosun had, if his colleagues in the cabinet and the president, immediately this scandal broke out and